Welcome to Check In with SJ. I'm SJ. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to talk today about memory. Most of the friends in my kind of group of people here, we spend a lot of time talking about memory, or the lack thereof, I should say. Do you find that you have more trouble remembering things? Do you go into the kitchen and think, what am I doing in here? I found it helps to backtrack and go where I just was. And somewhere along the way, I'll run into that memory sometimes. Or sometimes I'll get busy doing something else, and eventually I'll work my circle back around to what I was originally doing, and it will come back to me. Is that about what you do? I think a lot of us are in that category. Not only those of us in Act 3 of our life journey, but I've noticed a lot of younger people also do that. They'll be halfway through something and go, oh, I forgot. Do you ever get midway through a sentence? Now, this is really bad when I'm the one talking. I guess I could be even talking to myself, but I'd be the one talking midway through a sentence and I forget the topic I'm talking about. I totally forget what I'm going to say. Or I have trouble with word recall. There's been a couple of times when I've called my car the refrigerator. I've got to take the fridge down, put some gas in it, that kind of type of thing. But or just totally can't remember a name when I know the person very well, maybe have known them forever. Gets interesting. And, when we hit Act 3, sometimes we think, well, is dementia setting in? Is this a precursor of dementia? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'm not a healthcare person. This is not a healthcare site. I'm not a counselor. But I am the person that's going to remind you every day that the creator of this entire universe also thought it important to create you, and your creator loves you. Want to remind you of that every time I see you. I have looked up memory online in several sites. They all have pretty much the same information. The Harvard Health Publishing online has causes of forgetfulness. They list several, and it's interesting. I never really thought about there being different causes. And they say the causes can be lack of sleep. Well, that kind of makes sense. A low thyroid level. Low thyroid kind of messes up the entire brain is running slow. Those little neurons are just kind of slugging along in there instead of zap, zap, zap. Stress, anxiety. We've just got so much on our mind, and so many of us have so much on our mind right now. Some medications can affect minds. Alcohol can affect our mind. Depression. Someone with clinical or situational depression, again, we have more on our mind than we need to have or feels good, and we just forget easily. But Harvard separates that into different types of memory loss. One is called transience. That's just a matter of long-term memory loss. It's been a long time since that happened. I can't remember. I can't remember how to find the area of a triangle, but I can remember my home phone number. Can't remember the area code, but it was 767-0036. That was my home number. Right. What did I have for breakfast this morning? Don't have a clue. Um, what was my English teacher's name in the 11th grade? Oh, actually, I do remember that because he was very memorable. Yeah. But a long time ago, we don't remember things, and that's called the transience. Another's being absent-minded. Absent-minded means we're not focusing on what it was we needed to be remembering. We're just focusing on different things. Or if you're like me, sometimes I think my mind is like a little pinball ball and just zoom, 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 bouncing off of everything instead of going in one direction. And that would be absent-minded. Blocking. Well, sometimes we do like to block things out. That's called our survival mode. Blocking. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but oh, I just can't get it off of there. Just can't think of what was that word? What was his name? I mean, I can picture him. I know what clothes he wears every day. Can't think of his name. And sometimes we have competing memories, things that we just can't remember that. Another one, misattribution. You remember something accurately, but only in part. And somewhere along the way, we filled in the parts we don't remember with things that just sounded good. Or maybe someone else told us, we're like, yeah, yeah, that's it. That's got to be the answer. Yeah. Suggestibility. Information learned after an event becomes incorporated into our memory. A lot of times we have what we think are very clear memories from maybe childhood, but they're not actually our memories as much as things we've been told, things we've heard about that we remember being told about it more than we actually remember the event happening to us. I remember a family story when the family would get together, around Sunday dinner or uh, everybody helping each other snap green beans in the summertime. I loved hearing the family stories. One of my aunts told a story of taking out, the garbage, like the leftover produce, and taking it out way down their backyard to the edge of the woods and throwing it out. Because it used to be in the country, that's what we did with the table scraps. We threw them out for the little critters to eat. Well, she was going down through the yard and saw a snake. It was a big old black snake, but it was long and it was skinny and it was big and it was a snake. So my uncle said she came running back in the house. Sydney, Sydney, go get it. He went down there and found her bedroom slippers right in the grass, one in front of the other, because when she had jumped so hard, she jumped right out of her shoes when she saw that snake. Now, I was nowhere near there when that happened, but I've heard it so many times, it's almost like I remember it because I've heard the story. The story became part of my memory. And that can happen. That can happen. Bias. We have preconception about events, uh, personalities. This Everybody has a personal bias. It's natural to kind of make those presumptions about things, and sometimes that bias can color the way we remember something. It's very hard for police to get a clear description because people's just off the cuff memory can be affected by bias. It could also be affected by shock. Well, I wasn't really paying attention. Well, best I remember, and we fill in with the way we think it probably looked. Biased. It's normal. Everybody does that. And finally, persistence. A persistent memory can be from a traumatic event, they say. That we might have negative feelings and fears, and that negative feeling and that fear will distort our memory. That that great big bear came out of the woods. He was 10 feet tall. We were so scared. Of course, that goes other ways too. That fish we caught, that fish we caught that was this big was actually this big. I think that's a little bit different, don't you? But there's all these different types of memory loss. Could it be dementia? Could be. You need to ask your doctor. Don't ask me. I'm not a healthcare professional. I can't tell you. But I know more and more of my friends are finding that, man, we just forget more every day. It can be frustrating getting 2 miles down the road and forgetting something I have to have for work. I have to come back home and get my cell phone. Someone told me one day, I was halfway to church. I realized I'd forgotten to put my dentures in. I turned around, went back, grabbed them. A friend of mine did ask her doctor about it. She was very concerned about memory loss. The doctor asked her husband, have you noticed anything? Have you noticed that she's more forgetful than usual? And he said, I don't remember anything. So they did run tests. They checked her thyroid level, asked things, are you sleeping enough? Checking her medications. But also the series of questions they go through to analyze. And that's something, if you are worried about this, something you could ask your doctor about to please kind of give your memory a screening there. Turns out she was perfectly normal. And I love these three words. These three words used to upset my mama when she was the age I am now. At your age, it's perfectly normal. At your age, here in Act 3. Do you have a memory problem? Can you remember if you do or don't? Check into that. Ask your friends, ask whoever you get to strike a conversation up with. See what you can remember. See what you kind of slip sometimes. I bet you find you have a lot in common. I hope you take care. It's great to see you, and I'll check you next time. Bye now.